right?
But where can I put my pants on?
At the barracks.
Can I put them on before I go out of my house, please?
Ma'am, that's not part of our procedure. Once someone is
Can we put pajamas?
But you have a chance to change.
Through the barracks.
June 10th, 2022, Karen Reed is charged with murder. She is accused of allegedly killing her Boston cop boyfriend, John O'Keefe.
Karen, State Police, we have a search warrant.
I'm in my pajamas. I don't even have shoes on. I'm being charged with second-degree murder now?
That's correct. You can step inside.
She was accused of running him over, leaving him for dead in the snow outside of another Boston cop's house. Is that correct?
That's correct.
For the past 3 years, Karen Reed has gone through a murder trial, a second murder trial, and finally, June 18th, 2025, she is acquitted of murder. Is that correct?
That's correct.
003, not guilty.
And this is her first formal sit-down interview since the acquittal. Welcome to Rotten Mango, Karen.
Hi, Stephanie.
You were facing life in prison.
Yes.
June 18th, you get acquitted. What is that feeling in a way that's comparable to something someone watching can understand?
It's probably the opposite of what someone watching would assume I felt. I am still not quite living in an acquittal world. I thought I would just bounce back like on a spring. It hasn't been that way. I don't quite understand why. I'm trying to understand why I haven't felt more celebratory. And what I think is that I lived with some very singular emotions: fright, anger, and anxiety. It was very intense. Every waking hour, every hour, I thought about my freedom and if I could lose it. And those feelings just don't disappear when a jury foreman says not guilty. I mean, there is, of course, relief, but I don't just wake up the next day and I'm living the life I lived 5 years ago. I felt my grief was being replaced with anger that was then driving this adrenaline. And I woke up every day with a real purpose, and I was appreciative that I was free to pursue this purpose. And then all of a sudden, the purpose is gone, thankfully, but I don't have a routine to go back to. It's not there anymore. I don't have a job. I don't have a home anymore. And I'm just kind of in no man's land. And I still have moments every day, very brief, like a nanosecond, where I think of something. I need to tell Liza Little this for this witness, or if God forbid I'm ever convicted, I need to make sure I tell my mother this. Or it's over, the feeling, as soon as it starts. But there's definitely some synapses in my head that are still thinking trial hasn't happened yet. It's like when you get ready for the holidays and then you think, wait a minute, did Christmas already happen? It was all this anticipation, and then it's over in a couple hours and you unwrap presents, and it feels like that. Like I have to ask myself, wait a minute, it's over, right? It happened. I don't need to worry about this anymore. But there's this big void in my body and in my mind that, and physically, and what I was doing every day that I don't quite know how to fill. I just feel like a fish out of water. It's weird.
I mean, that was something I was going to ask. It's been like 6+ months since the acquittal. Obviously, you don't want to go back to trial, but every day you have to get dressed. You have a mission. There's urgency. Was there like a wave of emotions that hit you after the acquittal that maybe you were suppressing during the trial?
The acquittal feels like 3 years ago. When you say 6 months, it's like, oh my God, has it only been 6 months? I already feel like it's been many seasons and many things since then. I've had such an amazing network of support, more than anyone could ever ask for in this circumstance. Emotionally, when I needed to let things out, I had people around me that I could lean on. It was more physically that I didn't have the physical appetite. I didn't have the physical energy I had during trial. I've felt just kind of lackluster and just relaxed, but not this drive. Like, I feel like I've lost some of this drive, and it feels like it was just a prolonged response to what the government did to me, that I've had these endorphins pushing me, getting me out of bed, keeping me up, working on witness prep during trial and motions in between trials, and then it just shuts off. It was like this supply I had that never ended for 4 years, and now it's gone. So I feel physically I'm paying for it now. Like I've got to relearn how to get a regimen and how to source energy and drive every day. Maybe, hopefully not ever like it needed to be before June 18th, but some kind of even keel. I haven't found that yet.
Do you like wake up in the morning ever like, oh my God, I'm late to court? And then it's like, okay, I don't have trial, like I'm free.
I think I would if I were I live with my parents most of the time, so I'm not in the environs that I was in during court. But if I stayed at the Marriott in the Seaport, the Residence Inn, I may feel that way. I do get those moments of something that I want to tell one of the lawyers, or I want to remember, like, oh, these two dots connect, and then I realize, no, we don't need to know those dots connect anymore, or we already addressed it. Thank God I don't wake up thinking I've got to get to court. I wake up feeling very fortunate that I'm not court ordered to be anywhere anymore. It's very frightening to know you are court ordered. This is not a job or school where you should be there. It's best that you're there, but no one's going to come arrest you if you don't go. And this is 2 trials plus 100 pretrial hearings that I am court ordered. It doesn't matter how I feel physically or mentally. I have to be there, and I have to be there sharp because I'm a member of this team. So it's amazing waking up knowing no one is going to force me to be anywhere today.
What did you do the first 24 hours, though, after the acquittal? Like, 24 hours, what was that like?
The first 24 hours... gather in the parking lot. The hotel we stayed at was like a boutique style residence in a very lovely neighborhood in Seaport of Boston called Fort Point, and the local businesses, the restaurants, there was a residential building just across the street from us. It was almost the size of an alley, a very narrow street. And coincidentally, when I was in my 20s, I lived in that building. When we came back from the hotel, we tried to lose the press a few times, and I think we ended up going in a side alley door to the hotel. But I went to my room. David's room was below me, and I looked across the alley, and there were residents in the apartment building next door that had put congratulatory signs in their windows. Somebody put something with Yannetti's name. They must have known David, because it was only, well, I guess Alan was up in the corner as well, but it was a window directly. David was below me. It was right adjacent to David's room, but FKR or congrats Yannetti. So there were people that we had met in the neighborhood that were congregating. A restaurant nearby, I had orchestrated with them. I didn't make any plans until I was acquitted, because there was no way I was gonna set up any kind of dinner before I actually knew I was gonna need that dinner. So I called a restaurant in the Seaport. They gave us a private room. We had been there a few times during trial, and they were amazing. No one knew we were there. And it was my immediate family, my cousins who I'm particularly close to, and my legal team, and my local lawyers brought their families. And that was a very long 3-hour dinner. It was very overwhelming. My phone was blowing up. I wanted to decompress with my parents. I barely even got to speak to them. And the waiter's coming over and asking if I wanted to do a la carte desserts. And I'm like, I just really want to go back to the hotel and lay on my bed. We were getting requests for Good Morning America and the Today Show and People magazine. I mean, it was all rushing. It was just flooding in, and I don't want to do any of this. I need a beat. Yeah. And I need to figure out how I'm going to tackle all the media. I was very, very overwhelmed. We all went back to the hotel, all the families. My parents came back. Obviously, all the lawyers were still in town. The following day, I think Liza might have been the first to leave. David was leaving. Bob was leaving. My parents left in the morning, and Alan and I said, I just want to have a day. He was leaving the second day, 2 days after the verdict, and we just walked around, went to our haunts that we ate at during trial, and it's like, I'm going to walk in with Alan and have a meal that I've never had with him without this albatross around my neck. I've never eaten a meal or had a bowl of chowder with any of these people as a free woman. And it was a really sunny, warm day, and I ran into someone that I used to work with at Fidelity that I hadn't seen in a long time. It was just, I felt like I was in a dream, though. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say it was like the happiest day of my life. It still hadn't like hit me yet. It just felt surreal, and I felt sad. Like, so I'm gonna go back to the hotel, pack up my things, and then where do I go? And everyone else is going, my friends are gonna travel back and go back to work, and the lawyers are gonna go to other projects, and even my parents will go back to their routine, and my siblings. And it's just, where do I go? I was not planning with 100% certainty I would be here today. It's weird to live a day that you never planned on. I never made a plan for June 19th or 20th or the 21st because I didn't want to jinx anything, and I didn't know that I'd be there. I didn't even book a dentist appointment. So it's all of a sudden now I've got nothing. Yeah. And just very surreal is the best word I can think to describe it.
Is it like someone just comes and like shakes your snow globe and then leaves?
Yeah, and then everything just settles, and it just gets like eerily quiet, like it does after a snowstorm. Yeah. Before the plows come through, it's just dark and silent, and and it's still like feels like that. I'm starting to feel my way around, like defining what my life is going to be, but it's getting easier. But I do feel I've had this delayed this delayed reaction to the persecution, not delayed reaction to the acquittal. I'm finally like reacting to this horrible thing that happened to me, and I had to swallow and roll with it. And now I'm digesting it. Like I swallowed something horrible and it's just sat in my body, and now I'm finally breaking it down. I feel like I'm having to address things that I swept under the carpet. Like emotionally. Yeah. It's you just, your body kicks into this fight or flight, and my body is very good. My mind is very good at kicking into fight. I work very well under stress and pressure, and it got even better. That characteristic got refined during the last 4 years. But you can't do that to your body and to your mind without paying the piper eventually. Yeah. And I feel like I've had to do that.
Have you ever dealt with depression during the trial, even now?
No, I've never really dealt with it ever. I don't know if it's depression or if it's like PTSD. But no, I didn't feel, I was angry most of the time. Angry, and I felt very lucky that it's a disservice to the people around me, who are the most amazing people anyone could ask for. And I'm not inclined to depression, so I'm not surprised. I went through a normal grieving process, but I didn't feel down that I had to sell my house and everything in it that I curated myself. I felt, and I had a conversation with Alan that don't look at it as, the government is robbing you of this. Like they're using your taxes to prosecute you, and you're having to go through every asset and liquidate it. Look at it as an investment you made before you ever knew you'd be in this situation, and now it's paying off when you need it. And you're going to use this house to save your life. And, I get a lot of words of wisdom, but they don't all resonate, and that did. But I think I really just feel that I've been running on endorphins that are now, the spigot just shut off, and I've got to inspire myself in ways like everybody else wakes up. And I look at everyone around me like, get up and live lives and find inspiration, or physically and mentally, and I just have to do that like a normal person now, like retrain it.
Yeah. There's actually some people, perhaps a lot of people out there, that think you are sitting on a beach, you are cashing in on a book deal, a documentary deal. Like they think that you are good, you're set, you're enjoying your life. Is that what it really is like?
So we have announced that we're working with a publisher. Yes. This is Luke Janklow, and a producer in Los Angeles. That's Julie Yorn on the movie and TV side of things. So I've only announced that I have agents and I have these producers helping me to sell this. Mm-hmm. I have made nothing on the documentary. In fact, I lost trying to fight for a piece of the proceeds from the documentary. I went into the documentary thinking that there was this Son of Sam law in Massachusetts, which prevents defendants from profiting. Or, you can't commit a crime and then write a book from prison and send your kids to college on the back of this crime. Mm-hmm. There is no Son of Sam law in Massachusetts, which we found out in the middle of making this deal with the documentaries, which was great. So I can get paid at any point in this legal process, even if I were convicted. We were not paid. I was not paid. No member of my team was paid anything from the documentary. It was very legally involved. I believe I was misled and taken advantage of, and we gave the documentarian our all. I did not see the documentary. I watched the end of the final episode. I don't know if there were 4 or 5. David, several people told me there was a nice moment with David and me at the end of the last episode. So I did watch that and I liked it. And then I watched, Dave and I said goodbye at the hotel. And then the documentary ended with me in my basement at the house I no longer live in with all the legal boxes, because the documentary ended at the mistrial. So I think she was trying to show, here I am just back stuck at go again with our paper shredder and our printers. And I think I was like vacuuming the floor, and I was like, all right, I've seen enough. People close to me who watched the documentary said, based on what I had predicted it would be, it was not that. And I thought, this documentary experience has not been fun. It was incredibly invasive, which I knew it would be, but we still gave them more access than they could have ever hoped for. And the documentarian, I feel, went out of her way to excise us from enjoying not one dime of the proceeds. And based on what little I saw and what I've heard of the product, I don't need your money. You know what you did. You know what we gave you every day. My family, you were in our living quarters. You were in the SUV with us every day. You know what we gave you, and you know what kind of story you had from us, and you used us. You know you did. And I wish just never to cross paths with you again. I will tell my story with more control. We don't have a book deal. I think Alan and I will be co-authors on a book. There will be no book written by someone, even with just some creative input by me. It will be written by probably 3 people, a professional, and then Alan and I will be helping to tell the story. So I want this to be a story about corruption. I want to have some impact on the state where I've lived most of my life and where my family's from and where we battled this. I want to make an impact on what people think about politics, about the government, about the dangers of a one-party political system, which is what Massachusetts is. It's not about liberal or conservative. It's about being one party from the founding of that government with no competition, no checks and balances. It becomes almost anarchy like it is now. We've got a district attorney who has a war chest despite not having any opposition. It's dangerous, and I believe that is why I got where I was and why I got into this position, and why until it changes, there will be other Karen Reeds. You may not hear about them. Mm-hmm. These stories, Sandra Birchmore, it's getting exposed. Other people are exposing it as well. That's what this story will be. Okay. And if I have to write it myself, then I'll write it myself.
Even on that note, I do feel like I've heard a lot about you. I've heard a lot of clips of you. I've watched the whole documentary series, Body in the Snow, and I feel like you're very different from that. You know, the way that you're presented in the documentary and then versus like when you walked in.
I've gotten very good, and I was not good at this in my prior life. I've gotten very good at controlling what I let upset me, because so much has been taken from my control with a judge, with a district attorney, with the state police. I've been arrested. I've had my home 2 years later searched for electronics. Once someone comes in your home, you have no safe place anywhere. They've been in my parents' home. They've been in my house 3 times. So I've had to learn to control what I can control, which means not falling down a rabbit hole on Twitter, not reading comments on a video on YouTube. And I knew I had an idea where this documentary was going before it came out. We ended the relationship with Terry the documentarian on a very bad note, over money, of course. I had former students from Bentley. I had former colleagues. I had friends that traveled on their dime to interview for this documentary. These are people who knew me in all sorts of facets of life that I was then told those interviews didn't make it in.
They didn't make it in, yeah.
But John's sister-in-law, who, to the best of my knowledge and to everyone's knowledge, I would guess, knows they didn't have the tightest relationship. Or a friend of his, there's been 2 friends of his I have never met. I was with John nearly every day for 2 years. I had dated him 20 years before that. And there's some guy and an old girlfriend who I never met. This is the closest you could find to John, people who never saw John and me interact. And yet I gave you friends, I gave you people from my parish, students, colleagues, and none of it made it in. So when the documentary came out, and I can't even remember when that was, I made a concerted effort. I will not watch that. What is the point to get upset? Because I know what didn't make it in. And people come up to me all the time that I saw the documentary. It was, wow, what a story it told. And I can't believe what you went through. But my family and friends that saw it, no one's raved about it because they don't feel it portrayed me. But I'm not surprised I was cast in a light that is not realistic.
Yeah. During our 4-part series on Karen Reed's case, I mean, that's over like 10 hours long. Just with the sheer amount of people that were involved, we did have to resort to coming up with nicknames or monikers, some of our own creation, some that we've adopted from social media discourse. And out of just pure habit and pure personal style, I might still be referring to some of these people with that nickname. We called Brian Higgins, Brian Haha Higgins, Michael Proctor, Michael No Nudes Proctor. That was literally just so people could have an idea of who we're talking about when we mention a name. If I do that, that is not Karen poking fun at anyone. I honestly should probably prefer that I don't use these nicknames, but I probably will throughout this episode. And on top of that, another disclaimer is Karen is right now involved in multiple civil lawsuits involving a ton of different people. So there might be some questions that she cannot answer legally, and that's just for legal purposes. So with that being said, what do you think happened to John O'Keefe?
John O'Keefe entered the garage or the house at 34 Fairview and much sooner than later, met his demise. Based on his injuries, it looks to me like he got into a fight and fell backwards. There was not a single pathologist in either trial that didn't say the mortal wound came from falling backwards and hitting his head. That was agreed on. He had bruises on his hands. The prosecution tried to say that those came from IVs, but I've had many IVs. I've had them in my hands, and my hands never looked like that. But I dropped him off. He went up to the breezeway, and 6 a.m., I find him in a heap, missing his hat, missing his shoe, and laying there with a piece of glass in his face. So someone in that house killed John O'Keefe.
The Alberts have stated that they were asleep. And there's footage of you. There's body cam footage of you, like, screaming, dash cam footage. How loud were you screaming? Because there's all these comments about, oh, the wind, the blizzard.
I've done research, and my understanding is that the snow can muffle sounds. I don't need to wonder if Brian Albert and Nicole Albert were awake. According to the Commonwealth's own witness. Mine as well, but theirs as well. Ian Whiffen, Nicole Albert at 5 a.m. has an answered phone call from Jen McCabe. Answered and deleted. Furthermore, Nicole Albert at 6:07 a.m. and 6:08 a.m. has 2 more phone calls, each lasting about 7 seconds, from Jen McCabe, answered and deleted. This is not conjecture. This is not my theory. This is in the data. Pour over my phone records. By the way, I had no deleted calls, no deleted Google searches. I actually didn't have any Google searches at all. But I know from the data, according to the data, unless the data is wrong, and this is Celebrite, was just used to help convict Brian Walsh of murdering his wife. The same Celebrite used by law enforcement globally is telling me that Nicole Albert's phone answered a call from her sister at 5 a.m. and then 2 more at 6 a.m. So that would lead me to assume that Nicole Albert was awake.
Have you guys ever tried to recreate the quote-unquote butt dials?
No, because it's not possible. It's not possible. I have called people, and we jokingly, my friends and I, and my family and I, we say butt dial when we mean, like, I may be scrolling through my call log, and I accidentally activate that name and it calls. Or someone sent me their number on Instagram, and I went to press it down and copy it so then I could save it in my contacts, and it called them. And then I'll say, haha, butt dial. But it wasn't an actual accidental phone call made while the phone was completely inert. That's what they're saying butt dials are. Even if you're able to inadvertently make a phone call, they're all doing it in the middle of the night. All of them. Higgins is saying he made a butt dial. Brian Albert is saying it was a butt dial.
Well, it's kind of like a butt dial.
I believe I used the word butt dials.
Well, I used a phrase that people commonly used as a butt dial.
Not just a butt dial, but a butt answer and a butt hang up. On both ends. So you're saying you accidentally called him, he accidentally answered, he accidentally hung up, and then you accidentally hung up. Jen McCabe said the slew of phone calls to John at 1:15, between 12:30 and 1 o'clock, she had over a dozen phone calls to John. She's claiming those were all butt dials. What are the chances these people who were together all night are engaging in, if you count them, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 butt phone actions? Answering, dialing, hanging up. They meaning the Alberts, McCabes, and Higgins, appear to have kept it simple and agreed to several mantras, and just those mantras. One of them was butt dials, and the other, I don't recall, or not that I recall.
I don't remember.
I don't recall.
I don't remember. I don't recall my interview.
I don't recall.
I do not recall having...
I don't recall.
I don't remember.
I don't remember if I was tired.
If they were coached, it was smart. Keep it simple. Because when they start to add details to their renditions of what happened that night, they're completely inconsistent. Brian Higgins said his Jeep was parked in front of the house. He backed it up. He had a plow. He went into great detail, and he jokingly plowed some snow for Brian and Nicole to pull in, and then Matt and Jen, and then he V'd out and pulled in front of the house by the mailbox. Yet Jen McCabe didn't see the car, and she was apparently on night watch at the front door and never saw a Jeep with a plow, which is something memorable. Ryan Nagel, Ricky D'Antono, and Heather Maxon were behind me. They never saw the Jeep. So my point being, their group thought is simple, but as soon as you require details from these people, their stories are all over the place.
Do you think Chloe, the Albert's German Shepherd, is still alive?
This is the question I get asked the most, is what happened to the dog? And I realize I do not have a dog. I realize this is where society is a lot of us love dogs more than we love people or just as much. But I get this answer, this question constantly. I have no idea what happened to Chloe. Based on what I know, I would guess the dog is dead. I don't believe it's the dog they claim it is up in New Hampshire. We asked for proof, and all they gave was animal control vaccination records that I can literally go to animal control and get a copy of the vaccination records. And this woman in New Hampshire, who we have no address, no phone number for, she's claiming this is the dog. This was his birthday, and this is his vaccination. Well, anybody can get that.
At what point in the investigation did you feel like, okay, this is not an investigation into a tragic accident? I'm being framed. Like, what is there a specific moment it hits you?
So they had my phone in my car within a half hour of coming to my parents' house. So they left my parents at 4:15 on January 29th. They took my phone and they took the car. I was hoping desperately, this is a case of they've got the wrong guy.
Yeah.
I'm arrested on February 1st. I spend the night in a holding cell, and then I'm arraigned the next morning. I hadn't met in person David Yannetti, but I had already engaged with him on January 29th. He comes to the holding cell at the courthouse in Stoughton, and he has one copy of the police report that Michael Proctor authored. He's holding the police report. Now, they're already calling my case at 9 a.m. It's like 9:10. And I don't know what I'm walking into. I don't know what they have against me. I don't know anything. David is holding the police report and we're reading it together. They only gave him one copy. So his hands between the bars, I'm leaning in and we're reading it quick. I don't know how I had the focus to even comprehend and read at that moment. It was like just another fight or flight. Focus, Karen. This is about to be read in front of a courtroom filled with people. The first thing that stood out to me was, it said they arrived at my parents' house, Proctor and Buchnick, arrived at my parents' house at 4:30 p.m. and left at 5:30 p.m. And I knew right away that was wrong. I've lived in New England most of my life. 5:30 in the middle of January is pitch black outside. 4:30 p.m. is almost pitch black outside. And I knew when they left my house, my parents' house, it was still somewhat light outside because I remember watching the flatbed with my truck go by the front window. I knew they had gotten to the house around 3:00, and I knew they weren't there for 2.5 hours. So I thought, well, maybe this is how police reports are written initially in a cursory fashion, that they're approximate times, and then we can tighten timelines later. But that always bothered me. And then every affidavit that was accompanying every seizure of evidence after that kept saying the same thing, that on January 29th, we went to the house in Dighton at 4:30, we left at 5:30. So that was the first time I thought, all right, we're dealing with very sloppy, imprecise police. That was my first inkling that this isn't completely ticked and tied. After I was released from the arraignment on February 2nd, that evening, David Yannetti called me and said he had gotten an anonymous phone call from someone saying, you need to pay attention to who lives in the house. I had not even thought about the Alberts. I not one way or the other, just that I knew that was their house and they had been with us the night before, and I had met them for the first time a week before that. So it was very early on. I've been lucky that very early on and at regular intervals since, I have been given gifts of information that helped buoy me. Yeah. I can't tell you, hearing that information from David, so of course, as soon as David says, this anonymous caller says, look at the owner of the house, I start Googling Brian Albert. And it's within seconds, I find a Google video of him in a boxing ring beating people up. And he looks, I've met him, but I haven't paid much attention to him, but he sounds gruff, and he's walking into some drug bust with some kind of shield and weapons, and he looked like a tough, mean guy. Mind you, though, at this time, I didn't know John's injuries in detail. When I found him, he had a cut on his nose on his left side, and he had a cut above his right eye. He had blood coming out of his nose, and his eyes were like eggs. But I didn't know if he had broken ribs or his femur was sticking out of his body. I mean, it didn't seem to be, but I didn't know if he had internal bleeding. I didn't know until I saw the hospital photos in May how obvious it was that this body was not hit by a car or anything like a car, and this body looks like it was beaten up. So it was every couple months. So we got that tip. We didn't get much. March and April of 2022 were very tough. Yeah. John was in my life so much, so thickly, and then he wasn't anymore. It was the only relationship I've had, and I've had many that, I mean, I'm 45 and I've been dating since I was a teenager, that ended with such finality. I can't call him when I'm out in Boston at 1 a.m. when the bar closes like I did when I was in my 20s. I can't miss him in a few weeks and say, just thinking of you, or can I drop by and see you? I've never been forced to deal with such finality. I've never had a death that close to me. So March and April were difficult. There just wasn't anything going on. We weren't getting any police reports. I still didn't know what they were using to charge me. And it was in May that they finally released the photos that were taken of him at the hospital, and then the autopsy, with two different events. And it was very obvious to me, this is not what they're claiming. There's a cracked taillight on my car, and John is pristine from the neck down, with the exception of his right arm. Yeah. And coupling that, and David continued to get this anonymous tip to look at Brian Albert. Coupling those together, it gave me hope that I may be able to figure out what happened.
We saw the footage of the second arrest, which was probably one of the more shocking pieces of footage connected to your case. You had no idea that they were coming because you're just in short pajamas and you're begging to change before they take you in. And then eventually they mock you because you beg to change. And they're like, look at how much she cares about being on TV. Have you seen the footage?
I have seen stills of it, but I've steered clear. It is very difficult for me. And I've warned my parents not to. I think my dad just watches everything, but I've warned them not to.
I'm being charged with second-degree murder now?
That's correct.
I have no idea what this is about now.
It's about the same exact incident, okay? Where's the medication?
Can I use the ladies' room?
I understand. We're gonna get
all
all
your
that.
parents, and they can come over and retrieve any item you need at once.
Yep.
I can't put...
Hold on. What about the shoe wear? What kind of footwear do you wear?
Anything, but can I... I don't even have underwear. Can I put pants on?
And again, your parents can come over here and retrieve anything.
We'll get that medication for you. And
can I put pants on, please?
Can you just step over the side, please?
Where are your pants?
At the foot of my bed. Can I just have a pair of jeans?
We'll get those. In the meantime, let's follow this trooper right here, all right?
But where can I put my pants on?
At the barracks.
Can I put them on before I go out of my house, please?
Ma'am, that's not part of our procedure. Once someone is
Can we put pajamas?
But you have a chance to change.
Through the barracks.
Have a seat there for me. Then you gotta put that floor, though, double lock. It's just like... See how crazy she is? Give me the cameras on her. She's more concerned when she looks like some TV.
Yeah. I'm still recording, just to let you know.
Okay.
I have seen the footage from my own backyard camera after I was arrested the first time. And once I started to figure out what was happening, I was frightened. I was frightened about who is on the other side, who is on the law enforcement side that is trying to pin this on me, and who killed John that could be in my backyard right now. Yeah. And then I learned about Sandra Birchmore. I did worry. I live alone. I'm like a sitting duck. Yeah. Will I be hanging from a doorknob in my house? Yeah. And they could easily explain it as guilt, depression over what had happened, and she just gave up. So the first 6 months of 2022 were difficult. I had not even been explained to the concept of an upcharge. My understanding was you get indicted on what you were charged for. I didn't realize that the district attorney can present anything he wants to the grand jury, and they can charge me with anything. They could have charged me with also breaking into the Alberts' house and stealing their TV set while I was parked outside. I didn't realize that, and shame on me that I didn't learn that. I was trying to learn as much as I could. During these months. I was reading a book every couple days just about the criminal justice system and defending yourself and how this works. But June 9th, I was home alone like I was most days. I would do yard work. I'd put headphones in. I'd wait for one of the lawyers to call. I had been mowing the lawn. I hadn't showered yet. I was wearing boxers, and I actually just had a tank top on. I didn't have any underwear on. And I came in from doing yard work, and I decided I was going to cook for myself. I mean, this was my catharsis. I would go outside. I tried to get sun. I did a lot of, ask my neighbors. I was out in my yard every day just trying to sweat, at least physically tire myself out so I could sleep at night. And I was cooking. I was trying to eat well. So I was making a pot of chili. I was finishing everything up. I had music on, and all of a sudden I hear voices. And I lower the music. I go to the front door, and my windows are open. My storm door is closed, but the screen is up. And I heard a voice say, "Let's do this in the back. There's cameras out front." I had a very clear, it wasn't a Ring doorbell. It was a higher end private security system, but there was a very visible camera over the front door. But I also had them 360 around my whole property. So I heard that voice, "Let's do this around back. There's cameras out here." I see two cops. I couldn't make out who they were, but I could see them walking around by the garage of my property, which kind of requires you to go down into the driveway. The garage sits under the house, and then up a hill into my backyard. So I start shaking. I look out a window. I see there's a Mansfield, the town I lived in, Mansfield, Massachusetts, cruiser, and then I think two unmarked cars. Maybe there was a third. And I thought that something's happening. The first person I see, now I'm looking out the back window. I'm reaching for my cell phone. I see Michael Proctor in plain clothes walking by himself. Now he's soon to be followed by Buchnick and another state trooper, I believe, and a Mansfield cop. I think the state police have to call in local assist whenever they're in a different jurisdiction.
Oh, she's out back. Outside? Yeah. There's somebody in the house. Yeah.
For a split second, I thought Michael Proctor was there to hurt me. I had no idea. Why is he here? Why is he in plain clothes? Why is he at my back door, which is almost in the woods? There's no inviting path to my back door. You'd have no reason to go looking for my back door. I called David Yannetti, and it's just like a dream where you just can't dial the number, or you're trying to text and you can't get the text right. And it's like that in real life. Like, your hands are shaking, and I think I dialed his number like 3 or 4 times before I finally was able to dial it correctly. And I said, "David, Proctor's here. There's police here. I don't know what they're doing." And I can't remember if David told me that he had just gotten a phone call that I was indicted, or if he guessed they may have just indicted you. I knew that they were close to, I was hearing through the grapevine that people were testifying. So I can't remember exactly what David said to me. I think I either called my dad. I think I called my dad. And I said, Daddy, I think I'm getting arrested again. And my poor dad, I know that was one of the worst moments of this whole thing, because we were just completely bewildered. Yeah. What now? So I take the phone. It's still dialed in. I'm connected to David.
I'm in my pajamas. I don't even have shoes on. I'm being charged with second-degree murder now?
That's correct. Big deal homicide and leaving the scene causing death and bodily injury.
I walk outside. One of the first things that happens, Proctor's reading me